welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. Today we'll be talking about Liverpool. Let's dive right into the format since you already know it now, and let's talk about their last performances. And since I am a Liverpool fan, I'll be asking myself the questions and I will be answering, and the others will be giving us their meaningful contributions in the talk. So, regarding their past performances, let's focus on their performances from January onwards. From January onwards, in the most simple way, I can say that they have been sucking for quite a long time. And for a team that had won the Champions League and the Club World Cup, they are not up to that standard anymore. And a lot of it can be put down to, I don't know, maybe they have become complacent or they are now fatigued. I don't know what excuse we can give for that. But since January, especially the 14-15 day break that Jurgen Klopp gave his team, saying that they do need rest and all, because obviously they're humans and they do. Since then, they have been on a downward trend, and you could see it very clearly when they lost at Anfield to Atletico in the Champions League. It was horrible. And I think most of it can be attributed to key players of their squad missing. So whenever they have tinkered with the basic 11, they have strayed away from the basic 11, they've always ended up in problems. Especially when you've seen that, I think we can go to it in the tactics, but to put it shortly, when Robertson or Fabinho or Henderson or especially Alisson is not there at goal, the team have looked very, very shaky. Since we're talking about past performances, let's talk about the last performance, the 7-2 drubbing at the hands of Aston Villa. As if no other team was there on planet Earth, they had to lose to Aston Villa, that was 7-2. That was the first time they've conceded 7 goals since 1936, if I am not wrong. So, and for a defending champion to do that, I think that's happened after 10, 12 years or something like that. So, in no way, in any way, it's not a good record to have, and in no way am I condoning it. But then, I'm not blaming Adrian too, but whenever he's been at goal, the defense hasn't looked as strong, and I don't know. And I think the only good game this season actually was the one at Chelsea, where they actually dominated most of the game. And I think every other game after that, or even before that, they have not looked as convincing. I think the Arsenal game also was pretty good, but there also you could see their defensive problems. And then FA Cup, I don't understand Klopp, but I think that because they're focusing on the Champions League and the Premier League more, he's taking these cup matches more casually, because he's not playing his full strength XI, and even if they are playing, they're not playing to their full potential. So yeah, the past performances have not been exactly top notch for a team that are defending champions, but they're not especially bad too. And I think if anyone wants to jump on and give your feedback, I think this is a good time.
Yeah, for me also it's same. I think if they've managed to get a win out of the next game, it would prove a bigger statement that that win was just a bad day at the field or something. One thing I want to ask you is the form of Van Dijk since the restart, since January onwards. He hasn't been at his best. Can you explain anything about it?
Yeah, we'll do that when we get to the tactics and all that. I can kind of explain it, but not explain it all away. So I'll get back to that. Remember to ask me that in case I forget.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll talk about the new signings. There haven't been many new signings. I think other than actually there have been 2. So yeah, obviously Thiago, that was our marquee signing. And talking about Thiago, it has been a big deviation from the way that FSG in general have done their signings. For the past 5 or 6 years since Klopp, and maybe 1 or 2 years before Klopp also, they have not been signing established players as such. They have been signing younger players with an eye on the future, but who are also good for now, with a lot of potential to improve. So compared to that, the signing of Thiago has been very uncharacteristic, but then Thiago is a proven player. You know what he can do, and you saw what he can do in the one game that he played for us against Chelsea. So that record is actually, I know we've been talking about that record quite a few times when I was there, but that record is actually, I don't know what it proves. Maximum number of touches, he was just passing between themselves. So not really something you can brag about. But you could see that his passes were very, very good, because almost when the defense looked like they were locking us out,
Yeah.
when the defense looked like they were locking us out, Thiago always like kind of bailed us out with those penetrative passes, which kept the pressure on Chelsea. So, and you obviously saw what he did at Bayern, and I also mentioned that during their run to the Champions League, he was one of the key members of their midfield alongside Muller and whoever else played. But yeah, he's always been good, and since I'm also a Barca fan, I can very proudly say he's a La Masia product. But yeah, the thing we can say about Thiago is to when Pep, to exemplify how good he is, when Pep went to Bayern Munich from Barcelona, among the only players he asked for was get me Thiago, and after he signed Thiago, he was quiet. He's like, yeah, I got what I needed. So that is the quality of the player that Thiago is, and obviously Klopp knew it. And I was reading a few articles about it, and since Klopp was at Dortmund, he always had to just keep quiet when big teams like Bayern Munich were taking players from him, and he could do nothing about it. So finally, there was some kind of a retribution when he could take, when he had the chance, when he could finally take Thiago from one of his so-called rivals. So yeah, obviously Thiago and Diogo Jota. He's obviously a Wolves player. He's a Portuguese player, and he's a very good winger. He's very fast, and he's around 24, if I'm not wrong. So I've not seen much of his like great performances, because I only started following Wolves like 2 years back, and he had his like breakout season in 2017-18 or 18-19, one of those seasons. And like I saw a bit of him, but not much that I can like break him down fully. But as far as I know, he has a very good skill set which matches the way Liverpool plays, and especially the way Klopp lines up his team. So that is a good thing that has happened, and they are touting him to be a replacement on the left for Sadio Mane eventually, whenever he leaves or if he's injured. But yeah, saying that, it comes with a caveat that he's still not settled in, even though he's a very good player and he did have a good cup match and he's fast and he does. The one thing that I would like to point out, that his decision making has not been like on point. So you can't expect that from a player who's just come in. But yeah, I think that is one thing Klopp will look to improve in him, because otherwise his positional play is quite good. His speed is very good, and the way he finds his teammates is good. But like maybe the decisions in the final third of who he passes to, or if he goes for goal, whatever, isn't like up there. But he'll slowly get there. Other than that is Kostas Tsimikas, and he's a left back. They got him for like what, 8 million or 18 million or something like that, relatively cheap, and which was a good signing. I've seen him like for 2 games. I even saw him in the preseason games, and he was pretty good. Maybe not on Robertson level, but yeah, nobody's on Robertson level right now. Maybe other than Alphonso Davies, who is actually I would say better than Robertson any day. Yeah, but yeah. So those are our new signings. Other than that, Minamino came in last season, and he's not been great as such, but he's not been getting those many chances also. And I think we can talk about it when we come to their tactics and exits. I don't think there have been any exits of name other than brother Dejan Lovren. I don't know why Lovren was there in the team for so long, but they needed cover at centre back. But he proved to be detrimental more than he actually helped the team. So good that he left, maybe, in a way. But since he left Liverpool, that guy has been on fire. He's defended really well. He's taking great headers. He's scoring goals. I don't know what all was happening there, but I don't know. It's working for them. So Zenit did get someone good.
He didn't fit in the system, I think so. I think he fits better in the system of his new team.
Yeah, because
probably it, I think so.
I think the way that Liverpool line up, they need that defense to be solid, and I don't think he's up to that pressure or that capacity.
Yes.
But what other exits have been there? I actually don't know. I don't think there have been any exits at all.
This guy went on loan, no? The
Marco Grujic.
Karius. He's still a player, I think so. He went to her, I think Hertha.
No, he went to some Union something now.
No, Union Berlin.
Union Berlin. Union, no? I was saying Union Berlin. So yeah. Karius, I don't want to talk about Karius. He and Adrian are competing for who could go down as the worst goalkeeper in the history of the game itself. So we're not going to talk about them. Anyone else? Ryan Brewster went to Sheffield, which I want to say is a masterstroke by Michael Edwards, and I am Going to
Got
harp
so
about
much,
him.
that much money from him.
Yeah, I'm going to harp about him just like all the other Liverpool fans. He has been brilliant as a sporting director for a guy who's actually not been that greatly involved as like a player or a manager, but he's been a brilliant sporting director. Like the deals that he has done are simply remarkable, especially with the Ryan Brewster deal. He's for a player who's not played a single minute of Premier League. He sold him for 24 million with a buyback clause of around 30 million. So in case Ryan Brewster does improve, you just have to pay 30 million to get him back. So I don't know how he does that, but he is very good. So other than that, I think Marco Grujic has gone out on loan. I don't know where he has gone out to loan, but he's a good midfielder. But in a midfield that has Thiago, Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, and Wijnaldum and all that, I don't think he would have got his chance anyway. So maybe he's going out to improve his chances, and I think it's good for him in the longer run. Yeah, so I think that those are all the exits. Of the exit that I want this fellow Karius to leave. I want Adrian to leave. If nobody is there, make Van Dijk stand as goalkeeper. I think he'll do a better job. Holland is playing Van Dijk as a striker, so maybe he can also play as goalkeeper. I was kidding, but yeah. Just get a. I was hearing talk of them signing a championship
We
goalkeeper.
got a new young goalkeeper, no?
Yeah, Adrian is also quite experienced, which is a major problem. I think we can talk about it.
No. You got a young goalkeeper recently.
Yeah, he's
For the
like
reserve team.
17. He's like for the future. You just can't push him into the first team yet. And like Jitu had very wisely pointed out during one of our conversations, he's not like extremely tall or something like that, but people have been likening him to maybe something of a skill set like Casillas or something of that sort. Maybe not that level, but nobody is that level, but something of that sort. But judging by what I'm hearing on the talk, because I've also never seen him play on our community forums and all that, he's supposed to be really good. And apparently Alisson's brother scouted him, like recommended him, and that's how he came in. Would anyone like to talk about any of our new signings or exits before I move on to our tactics, which is the major part? Yes, let's go on to our tactics. So everybody knows that Liverpool plays primarily with a 4-3-3 with attacking fullbacks. They're not wingbacks, but they're attacking fullbacks. And the system is the famed Gegenpress, or however you pronounce that. So when Klopp came in, let's start off from the defense onwards and we'll slowly move up. At goal, we were never good. Liverpool was like never ever good. So before Klopp also, Liverpool have always been known to be like the goal traders. They were like Dortmund. They will score 4, but they'll concede 4 also, or maybe even more than 4. And that's how they used to lose games. So they were not like a team that would like every year contend for the title, maybe other than 13-14 with the famous Steven Gerrard thing. But other than that, they have never really like, what should I say, looked solid defensively. And goalkeeping has been a major contributor to that. They have been bad in defense and at goal. But like I've said, they were very entertaining, but you could never say that, yeah, this is the team that is finally going to win the Premier League for us, or this is the team that is going to win the Champions League or whatever. They were good, but they were not that good. Not even like of Premier League caliber. And yeah, like I said, defense was not really great. Goal was not really great. But midfield was where we always had like a stronghold with the great Steven Gerrard, of course, among the best of all time, in my opinion. So it's my opinion. So among the greatest of all time. And then they were always like the classic number 8 box to box midfielder. Steven Gerrard was brilliant. And then as he was in his end days, when he was slowly being phased out, or when he was slowly at the end of his career, Jordan Henderson took over the captain's armband and etc. Jordan Henderson was never he never had like a great box to box thingy, but he was more like a defensive midfielder, and he could also like play something of like a playmaker, but he was never like Steven Gerrard, because obviously nobody can be like that, but no one really replaced Steven Gerrard. But then Coutinho, whenever he came in, was brilliant, and he earned the title of the magician at Liverpool because of the brilliant plays that he did, and those plays were right at the fore again when Brazil played this weekend. It was a really, really good performance by Coutinho. Like, you could understand why he was called the magician then, because he was making passes that it did not seem logical to do them, but it got the results, so it was pretty good. But then he finally went. And regarding the Coutinho thing, if anybody didn't know, before he went to Barcelona, Klopp actually told him, "Please don't go, stay here. You'll be a legend. You'll be a club legend. They might actually end up building a statue for you because that is how good you will be." And then the rest is history because he left Barcelona and became a colossal flop. And maybe things are looking up this season, but yeah. Other than that, the midfield has generally been good, but not like excellent since Gerrard has left. Because with the wing backs attacking, the midfield has especially under Klopp, the midfield has taken over the a few of the defensive responsibilities, to put it mildly, because most of them stay back. Very few of them like attack, maybe like Wijnaldum attacks, or when Jordan Henderson plays in that position as that attacking midfielder or whatever, he attacks. But generally, the two people don't play some double pivot, but they have a lot of defensive responsibility on them, because with the two wing backs going forward, there are only two centre backs, and generally Van Dijk is the last man. So if Marty plays or Gomez plays, or when Lauren used to play, they also used to be higher up. So it was literally just one centre back. So all of them had to track back. So the defense under Klopp, primarily they have a lot of defensive responsibilities, and maybe like just one, since they play the 4-3-3, only one of the midfielders has an attacking responsibility or a playmaking responsibility. And what else do I have to say about the midfield? Yeah, I didn't say this, but I hope Wijnaldum eventually does go out, because the talk of him leaving is getting very irritating at this point. I don't know why like Barcelona would want him. Like Koeman, I understand, yeah, he's a part of your Dutch team, but
he's building a Dutch brigade, something
whatever that is. Why would you buy a player like Wijnaldum, who's like 30 now, or he'll be 31 next year whenever you buy him, and he doesn't even have a great work rate, and he doesn't fit in the Barcelona way, if I could say so. Because now, actually, at this point, Barcelona way has become like the Guardiola way. So
yeah.
he doesn't fit in that. And like maybe the La Masia people fit in there, but that's moving too much towards Barcelona. So I don't know. Wijnaldum is good, but I never really liked him a lot. Actually, I like Oxlade-Chamberlain a lot, because he has speed. He's very good in attack. And whenever Firmino isn't there, or they need someone to inject pace into the midfield, they actually turn back to Ox. But he hasn't featured in a very long time now. I think the last time he featured was maybe in February or something like that.
Long, man.
So that's a very, very long time ago. And for a player of his caliber, I think it's just being wasted.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
He's a very good player, and I have not seen him so much also. I don't know why. I think they should play him more. Get rid of some of the older players like that. Like they should get rid of Wijnaldum and give him Oxlade-Chamberlain a chance, I think so.
Especially, I'm not saying that I hate Wijnaldum. At his prime, he was very good, but I don't see what he has to offer to the team at this point. Other than him linking up instinctively with Sadio Mane, I don't think there's much he has to offer to the team. Yeah, but offering support to Mane is a very good thing. But I don't know. I think Mane links up beautifully with everyone, so it's not only a matter of Wijnaldum. So yeah, let's move into attack.
Yeah.
Attack, we had Luis Suarez and then lost to Barcelona in 13-14. Who else did we have? Great people in attack. We had Sturridge, we had Origi, and they bought Shaqiri in this 18th season. Yeah, but none of them have really clicked. Shaqiri was supposed to be like a marquee signing for Shaqiri is there, he's going to do something great this time. That didn't really work out because of his injuries, not because he's a bad player or anything. Especially that League Cup free kick that you saw was a brilliant one. So, and him playing for Switzerland also, he was pretty good. So it's not that there's any problem with his quality, it's just that injuries. And then Origi couldn't break into the team much after that famous Champions League feature. So that didn't really work. So I don't know. So let's talk about the famous three, our friend three. Left is Sadio Mane, got him from Southampton.
Thank you for listening.
I think he
subscribe and
he has been
channel.
like a revelation.
And all our
especially under Klopp, he was great at Southampton. I'm not saying that he was bad at Southampton.
And this is Jitu
but
signing
under
off.
Klopp, with the speed and the way that Klopp has utilized him, it's been brilliant. And all of us know that Sadio Mane also has a lot to offer in defense, because I always said that when people ask me why I like Liverpool, it reminds me of basketball. All of them go up when they're attacking, and all of them fall back when they're defending, which is a very good thing, and I like to see that a
Especially
lot.
Mane, like he's a very hardworking player.
his-
I think so.
His work rate is just brilliant. And yeah, but Mane, and people keep saying that Mo Salah is great, Mo Salah is the best, etc., etc. Yeah, Mo Salah is very good, but if I had to pick one among them both, I would any day pick Sadio Mane all the time, because
He's very reliable.
yeah, you know that if he's in the team, he will track back. You know that if he gets a chance, he will finish. Especially during the Chelsea game, you saw that in which he capitalized on the Kepa mistake. He made an error in which he lost the ball. He lost possession, because of which he was like, "No, I have to get the ball back now," and he ran. He was after the ball till Kepa made the mistake. So he basically forced Kepa to make the mistake, and in that slight mistake, he capitalized. So that proves the quality that Sadio Mane has to offer. And there are talks of him leaving to Real Madrid and all that. I don't know if that is going to happen, if it will ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to Salah before coming to Firmino. Salah, obviously a Chelsea reject, so he has to be great. He went to Roma, Fiorentina, etc., etc. Finally landed here under Klopp. So yeah, Salah has been good, especially his first 2 seasons. Two golden boots, a record-breaking season, his debut season for Liverpool. So all of those are very great, and yeah, he's obviously reliable. And yeah, he has great speed. He has brilliant finishing, etc., etc. But I have one complaint with Salah, especially in the last few months. He's looked more and more selfish. Maybe he was selfish before also, and I didn't notice. But he looks more selfish now. In that, like, there are people who are in a better position to finish than you, but you generally don't pass the ball to them. They used to do that. The front three used to do that a lot, which also contributed to their success. But now Salah looks to, like, I don't know, it looks like he's trying to enter into some record books, or he wants the goals for himself or something of that sort. But when you know that a player is in a better position than you, I don't understand why you won't pass. But all of that said, he is a brilliant player, and obviously Liverpool won't be the same without him. But
Yeah.
if you told me that yeah, Salah is leaving and he'll be replaced by someone else, I would actually not be very pained to see that happen. Like, I would not be worried to see that happen. I'm not saying Salah is replaceable, but yeah, among the front three, if there's one person I would not mind not having, I think it would be Salah. That brings us very nicely to Firmino. People would say, why would you want to have Firmino in your team in the first place? Doesn't score goals, he doesn't do anything. But in his defense, he's only looked bad in 2020. Not even 2019 also he was pretty good. Only in 2020 he's looked bad. So I don't know what you can put that down to. I think we can talk about it in the tactics. But Firmino, Klopp has described him, among many other things, he's described him as the team's first defender. So as soon as they lose possession in the other half, Firmino is the first person who latches on and gets the ball back in their half. So Klopp has always stressed that the key to their success and to their press is gaining the ball in their half, so that they don't have to build the attack from scratch again. So he has described Firmino as his first defender. I don't know if Klopp has actually done that, or it's just something that they say in the community boards, but it actually makes sense because of the way Firmino plays. So yeah, and who else? But yeah, so Firmino not scoring goals. Actually, last year there was a lot of hype around Minamino when he came in as to what they're going to make him play, etc., etc. And there was a lot of clamor to throw Firmino out of the team because he's not scoring goals. But Klopp has always stressed that, and he's also told Firmino, because Firmino always goes back to him and says, "Thank you for trusting in me even though I'm not scoring goals." Klopp always says, "Your contribution to me and the team is more than scoring goals," because his passing in the final third is simply phenomenal. I don't think there's another false nine in the world who plays as brilliantly as Firmino in his prime. Maybe Messi when he was there, but in 2019, at the end of 2019, or even in the beginning of 2020, I think the best false nine in the world was Firmino, because his passing was like unprecedented. Like I couldn't even imagine the things he used to do, and that always gave Salah and Mane the chances to score. Not that they were bad, But because Firmino was so good and selfless, he gave the others more chance to score, and it was good for the team overall. So I think that's why Klopp is persisting with him so much. And let's move on to tactics now. And since we're talking about Firmino, if not Firmino, who is the other person who could fill in for that striker kind of a role, or a 9, or even maybe a 10 kind of a role based on how deeply Firmino plays?
He's false 9, no?
Yeah, he's a false 9, but sometimes he drops so deep that it's kind of like a 10 role with only 2 men up.
Okay.
So it sometimes morphs into a 4-3-1-2 or something of that sort. But yeah,
Okay.
so not exactly, he's not like a traditional 10, he's not like a Pakka 9, so he's not even like a false 9 at this point anymore. Nobody knows what he is, with all those memes going on, like defensive minded striking wing or something like that. So he's not of that, but the other,
I think he's the sort of like player like you can't describe with the goals, number of goals.
Exactly.
Like his contribution is different than that. So the coach trusts him. I think that's more than enough for him to be on the team.
Yeah, and generally Firmino is the person who starts. Even if he gets subbed off eventually, Firmino is the person that Klopp trusts. That's why he starts. And like Minamino has been replacing, like subbing him off whenever Minamino goes in. And like when he joined, like the game against Salzburg made Klopp eventually buy Minamino because Minamino was brilliant. It was weird to see because he was running through our defense like it was nothing. And for a relatively unknown player, that was very new to see. So they went ahead and bought him, and he didn't settle in really well at that time. There's no doubting Minamino's quality. He's actually a very, very good player.
He's a very good player. I think I saw him play. I think when he played for Japan, like in Asian Cup, he used to play for Japan. Like that's when he just spot onto the scene. That's when I used to, like, he was brilliant at that time. He took them all the way to the final. They somehow lost to Qatar though, but his quality was there.
Yeah,
He's a brilliant player.
even for Salzburg, he was very good. So there's no doubting his quality. Even if you see in the cup matches and all that, I think it's just a thing of him settling into the team. So now in the recent months, if you've seen the way he's played, he's settled down a lot more, and there's a freedom and the flair in which he plays. So I think there's that natural fashion of him coming back. So we can expect him to fill in for Firmino more, given that it's a very long season. And then there is the eternal question of why Divock Origi is not getting into the team. The thing with Origi was, in Advait's words, he's a super sub, especially during the Champions League and all that, when Salah was injured and there was not much to do. He scored off that famous Trent corner kick, which saw them down Barcelona at Anfield. So it's not that he's bad, but maybe he doesn't fit into the system in a way that he doesn't press. And like I said, Firmino offers that first defender of the team kind of a quality. So he presses. Even if you can see now, if they lose possession in their half, Mane and Salah run into the box, but Firmino stays a little more deep. So if there's a pass there, he immediately runs there to cut them down, the opposition down. So in a way, he's like that. But Divock Origi doesn't have that speed. One, not saying he's slow, but he doesn't have that speed, and I don't think he can maintain that intensity for that long. And Divock Origi is more of like a striker than like a deep lying striker or a false 9 or whatever. He's not like a Firmino kind of player, and since Klopp has built that, that's why Origi doesn't make it into the team. And then there's the other question of why doesn't Shaqiri make it into the team? Shaqiri is always injured. I think that is one of the reasons he doesn't make it into the team. And like I said, the problem with Liverpool is they don't change their XI much, and that is kind of detrimental to them, because whenever the combination changes, the team falter. Like they're like, okay, this is a out of syllabus kind of a question. We don't have all the answers, so I don't know what to do. Like all of them are just clueless about what happens, and so I think that's why they don't toy much. But I think so. The other thing was earlier when Klopp was making waves and Liverpool were like starting to build up their reputation as being a good team, a team that can actually contend for bigger titles. The front three were a big part of it. So Firmino always used to be the people, because the front three were relatively new to the whole world back then, that combination. So that time Firmino used to be their like a bait. He used to draw out defenders and create space so that Mane and Salah could run in behind. But it's been 3 or 4 years since that has happened, and obviously people have understood that tactic by now. And the obvious question is, why hasn't Klopp changed it yet? Because everybody knows now that if Firmino is there, he's not going to score. Everybody knows he's going to pass. Everybody knows that if he's there, even though even till now, Firmino does draw players, not as much as he used to before, but he does draw players, but he doesn't create as much space as he did before. So that is one obvious problem that I think Klopp knows, and he's working actively to fix. But the only problem is he doesn't have a player whom he can trust to with a different role or whatever. So maybe it's time they started experimenting with Origi up front, and him. Obviously, he can't track back and contribute much to defense like the rest of the front three do. But maybe if you need goals and you always want a person to finish, maybe Origi is your answer. But then there's also Shaqiri. If Shaqiri stays fit, there's nothing like it. He's so skillful on the ball.
No,
his dribbling is so
I
good.
would prefer Shaqiri over Divock Origi. I think so still, because I think technically Shaqiri is more better than Divock Origi. Yeah, of course he scored these lead goals and all, but other than that, I think Shaqiri just pretty much has like edge over him in all the other aspects.
Yeah, especially in speed and dribbling and skill. Like on the ball, Shaqiri is very, very good. But then, like I said, Origi is a out and out striker. Like, you know that if you give the ball to him, he'll score. So I don't know how Klopp is going to figure it out, but I think most likely he's going to continue with the same thing and maybe play Minamino more instead of maybe someone else. Or maybe he'll slot in Diogo Jota into that role despite him being a winger. Someone with speed who can pass really well. So
Jota has been in good form also now.
Yeah, Jota.
I saw the last game against Portugal.
Yeah.
For Portugal.
So, but the problem is that the whole world now knows Salah and Mane are the people that they have to keep an eye on, the people they have to mark. Because whoever is playing that 9 role is not going to score. So Klopp has to somehow figure out a way to fix that. And let's move on to midfield. Midfield, with Thiago in, there's actually nothing more I could ask for. The midfield is more or less settled. The few complaints I have are, Henderson's form has been not his form, to put it plainly, actually his injury record has not been really good. But given his age and the number of matches they're playing, I think it's acceptable. But then if Henderson is not there, they lack that it's not the intensity, they don't have that leadership kind of thing. Especially when you know that Henderson is there, it's always like Henderson is there kind of a thing that the whole team has. They know that there's a person who's going to shout at them, tell them do this, do that, even though Van Dijk calls the shots from the back. But when Henderson is there, the midfield just looks different. And when Fabinho wasn't there was a major problem because with the whole defense literally going up, Van Dijk was left alone and Fabinho used to slot back, giving that defensive cover. But when Fabinho was injured, that back line was so vulnerable. Even Barcelona, the last season's Barcelona could walk through. That was how bad they were. And so with Fabinho back, and especially with Fabinho's performance as a centre half in the Chelsea game, he literally locked down Werner like he was brilliant. He didn't give Werner any chance. He was brilliant on the ball. And I think I was actually going to start a petition to make Fabinho play as a centre half full time because he was so good. And I think we can round off the midfield by talking about Wijnaldum. I always said I don't like Wijnaldum, but there's one more player in the midfield I hate more than Wijnaldum. I don't hate Wijnaldum, but one player I actually hate in the midfield. This guy is called Naby Keita. I genuinely hate him. I genuinely hate him from the bottom of my heart. I never understand what that guy... Like, I understand why...
I think he's the third most highest transfer for Liverpool. I think it's behind Van Dijk and Alisson, I think.
Yeah, they bought him for excess of 30 million, 35 or 40 or something of that sort. I don't exactly remember the figure, but he was not cheap. And they got him from Salzburg. So when they bought him, the idea was to inject that speed in the midfield, to provide a cover for Wijnaldum, etc., etc. This guy has speed, check, but his passing is bad. Positional play is even more bad. And if at all it comes to finishing, it is 0. If it's possible, it's in the negative. So he doesn't... I don't know what other than having a
I don't
midfielder
know.
for the sake of having a
Yeah,
midfielder.
the thing I'm also surprised with, like, he used to play for Leipzig and he was actually very good. Like, he was like this rising star. There were a lot of praise for him like that, and I think that's what attracted his move. But suddenly when I see him in Liverpool, I don't know what went wrong. Maybe like he can't adjust to that system, or maybe he isn't good enough for that system. I don't know what is
Yeah,
wrong.
the thing is, I think Naby Keita is supposed to be like a cover for Wijnaldum. So when Wijnaldum is not fit or injured or tired or whatever, but the style of Wijnaldum and Keita are a little bit different. Wijnaldum is not exactly box to box, but he covers most of that space. He runs up and he runs down. Sometimes he slots when Mane drops back, he goes up to Mane's position. But Keita doesn't do either of that. He just runs with the ball. So yeah, if there are two spots in the midfield that I don't like, I think, and the points for concern are Henderson's injury, but with Thiago in and Fabinho mostly remaining fit, so that's two spots down. And with
So, no, regarding Thiago's, like, he was tested for COVID. No,
yeah, he started training with the
maybe-
first team again, I think.
Okay, so he'll be there for the weekend game, I think.
Yeah,
against
Merseyside
Everton.
Derby, I think he might be there. I don't know exactly, but there are rumors that he might start. We don't know. But if Thiago is there, I can actually watch the game with a lot of peace of mind. Then think about, okay, where is this going? What is happening? Because Thiago, though
Control the game.
he's not like he doesn't like offer much of a defensive thing or whatever. But just knowing that he's there, you know that ball comes to him, he'll stop it. You know the ball comes to him, he'll somehow create a pass up front. He'll somehow create a goal scoring opportunity. The thing is, he's not a. You can't call him a playmaker because he doesn't assist much. But if you see key passes, he has like the highest I think in
Yeah.
the world. So the pass before the assist is from Thiago generally, for whichever team he plays. So that talks a lot about Thiago. I don't want to boast about Thiago too much now. Let's move on. So the concerns are Henderson's form, Wijnaldum. I don't know what he's doing at this point, but I think they should start Curtis Jones more often. I used to complain a lot about Curtis Jones' attitude, but I think a lot of it has gone down now, and like he looks as confident as ever, but minus all that crappy attitude, which is a good thing. And moving on to defense, left is Robertson, but when he gets injured, talking about Robertson, people keep saying that Trent Alexander-Arnold is the defensive problem with the fullbacks and all. But if you look at games and if you look at stats, the number of times that teams have attacked the left flank of the defense and succeeded in that is more. So the problem there is not Trent. The problem, because even though when you look, it looks like Trent doesn't have that much of a defensive capability, or he doesn't have a defensive work rate as much. But the actual problem is on the other side. Like they make runs on Liverpool's left side, and because Robertson is constantly near the goal. I rarely see him at our goal. He's more towards the other goal.
I think, yeah, the most the teams are targeting that right now.
Yeah,
This,
you can see it. Like I was
defensive
reading
liability.
an article in the Athletic. It was talking about stats and all, and it clearly showed in that. So yeah. But despite that, I think Robertson is brilliant with his speed, his passing, especially his link up with Mane is brilliant. And then Trent is among my favorite right backs in the whole world. I think he is the best. Maybe Kimmich is obviously better, but then Kimmich is not like a proper right back.
He doesn't play right back.
Yeah, and
There's no one
and
else.
their styles of play are different. So as an attacking fullback, I think Trent is the best in the world. And like obviously his long range passes, the way he changes the direction of the play is brilliant. So no complaints there. Van Dijk, obviously the best defender in the world according to me right now. Maybe other than Alaba of Bayern Munich. But then that has also looked a bit shaky. Maybe the whole defense has looked shaky. I want to do an episode with Jitu on this, of how
We have to do
the
that.
defense is going bad.
There is no existing defense. It's full on attack nowadays.
Yeah, so-
I don't see a defending team nowadays. Nobody defends.
Actually, we'll sit down, research about this, have a few calls, and then a record. Before that, let's move on to the other side of the defense. Martip, whenever he has played, was good. I'm not going to say great and all. He has also made errors, but he's been good. And I think we give a hard time to Gomez for no reason. Obviously, he's looked bad in the past few games, past few months. Actually, for quite a long time, he's looked bad. But he's just 24 or whatever. So you can't expect that level from him. Like when he was playing last season, he was very, very good. And people were like, why is this guy not in the team always? And now when he's playing a little bit badly, this thing bad. But I don't know what the reason is. I think Klopp has to like get the whole team down, sit them down, train them, tell each of them what their roles are, and maybe then it'll fix things. But yeah, Gomez has looked shaky, and I think that is one loophole in our backline. So two loopholes as of now are Robertson and whoever plays alongside Van Dijk. But the biggest loophole of them all, Van Dijk himself. I know I've called him the best defender in the world, but the problem is, and if you could see in the Holland game also, the Dutch game also,
Yeah.
they were trying to maintain a very high line, which makes sense. The problem is you can catch teams offside, but the problem is if you're not maintaining that high line properly, where is your offside trap working? And you saw how Villa managed that, like manipulated that beautifully. All credit to Villa because Van Dijk has looked off with like everyone knows how he barks and gives everyone instructions and all that, but you could see that there's an obvious problem with them maintaining their line. Like he pushes them, I think he pushes them like at least a 5 or 10 or almost 15 yards too high. And like I know that you don't want to like start off the attack from a little bit further back, but if you're going to maintain such a high line and one of them also is off, it's a huge risk because no matter how fast,
It's a very
no matter how
very,
fast
very big
Gomez
risk.
is, no matter how fast Trent is, no matter how fast Robertson is, you literally have to run half the field. And compared to a striker, you are still. I don't want to say this in a bad way or in a demeaning manner, but you're still just a defender. Compared to an attacker or a striker or an attacking midfielder, you are going to be slow. And on top of that, Gomez in recent times has run so much that the offside trap fails completely. He runs so far deep inside that teams now are just holding back a little bit. They run, but they're running slower because they know Gomez is going to run so fast and is going to end up so much in the back that the line doesn't exist anymore. So the offside thing doesn't work at all. So they can just pass in the last third, and you could see that in the Aston Villa game. Aston Villa game is like a perfect case study to see what is wrong with the Liverpool's defense right now.
Yeah.
So I think the majority of the defensive lapses, I'm not blaming it on Van Dijk, but I think he's responsible for them because he has been responsible for the defense for a very long time now.
No, one point I have to bring is like when you're playing a high defense, like you can take that risk if your defenders are fast enough to recover the ball, if in case, because sooner or later the teams try to play long ball, long passes forward, like they'll fake the offside trap. Because I've seen it in my team, Bayern, the same thing. I mean, Bayern also lost to Hoffenheim. This is the same thing. I think the common thing that I saw between Bayern and Liverpool is that both teams play a high line and their opponents are trying to exploit it now. So I think they have to adapt it more, find a better solution because now almost everybody knows how you play. So we'll see what Klopp comes up next.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's not that Klopp's tactics are bad, but for 4 years the whole world has seen it, and given the development or progress in technology, with the amount of video analysis going on, they know exactly what each player is doing. They know exactly what mistake led to what goal at what time. So it's not hard for them to find out a tactics. And given that it has worked for 4 years, it's actually a miracle. The exact same tactics have been used for like literally the last 4 seasons, and they've worked. So I think it's high time now that they actually go back to the drawing board. I'm not saying they need like a overnight sweeping change with the whole new tactic and all that.
That would go bad.
Yeah, but they need to like find out what is wrong, what is going wrong where, and slowly start fixing it. Especially with the younger generation coming up, Nico Williams, and there's one guy called Reece Williams or something like that. He's also very good. He's also especially very, very tall, almost as tall as Van Dijk or maybe even taller than Van Dijk. I'm not saying he's brilliant at all, but he's pretty good. The Nico Williams is pretty good. Curtis Jones is good. Harvey Elliott is good. So all of these are the people who have coming through the academy. Then Tsimikas on left back is pretty good. Then you have Thiago in there for, I think Thiago is at least good for the next 3 or 4 years easily. Let's not say 4 years would be like a stretch, but at least 3 years, hands down, he'll be good enough. It's just a concern of him staying fit. So that's down. So maybe they have to start finding new attackers because maybe Salah or Liverpool or Mane might leave, given that Madrid are going to have a bonanza next season. So they could literally get anyone they want. So I'm not saying that the other people they're going to want, given their age, but if they want like a short-term fix, they could just buy them. So
and they will go also. That is
so that's about it for tactics, I guess. And there's one more thing. Klopp, I have read it in many community boards now. Apparently, Klopp is planning a raid of Dortmund next summer. So he actually told FSG, bro, get your money. You see,
Dortmund is going to. I think Dortmund team is going to sell out. Next
the
season.
whole team,
Everybody
from
is
back
ready.
to front, whole team. Only Rios will stay.
No, I've heard like Real Madrid also are sketching this guy,
Gio
Reina,
Reyna.
now itself. Everything
Yeah.
they are sketching.
They want
I've
Haaland
seen
also.
Liverpool for going after
United
him.
want Sancho. Jude Bellingham also. Manchester City is looking. Like I've heard so many of these rumors. But like
I think this is going to be the biggest sellout since 2013, I guess. After 2013, I think a lot of players. I think after Götze, Hummels,
no, but
that saga.
apparently Klopp, when he says a transfer rate, I don't mean he's going to play like 3 or 4 or 5 players. But I'm pretty sure that Klopp is looking at least at 2 players. Apparently he admires Haaland a lot, but I am pretty sure Haaland is out of budget. But maybe FSG can get so much money by then, given that they already won the Premier League and etc. 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 And they're also planning this Big Six thing. And if anyone wants to know about the Big Six more, please tell us. We'll make an episode about it. But since it's already scrapped or fallen through, but if you still want to know the details, please tell us. We can make a video about it. Other than that, what else is there? Apparently, he also likes Gio Reyna a lot, Klopp. So he's trying to talk to them to already get into talks with him. Other than that, who else? Yeah, I think that's it. So possible XI, the XI will not change at all. So you're still looking at Alisson in the goal. Left back is Robertson. Worst case scenario, Costa Tsimikas can start there. Van Dijk. I have the one good thing is Van Dijk has very rarely been injured for an extended period. So if Van Dijk is injured, all hell will break loose. So that is a major problem. But yeah, Van Dijk. As of now, Gomez. But yeah, right back will be Trent or eventually Nico Williams. But it's weird that I say eventually, given that Trent just turned 22 last week or the week before that. I don't know why I'm saying eventually. Trent has like what 10, 12 more years to go. So but yeah, Nico Williams or Trent, and the defending midfielder or the holding midfielder will be Fabinho, and I think the other two midfielders for now, I think it should be Henderson or Wijnaldum and Thiago for sure. Thiago's position is not up for debate, not up for anyone else to replace. Thiago is Thiago. You bought him for a reason. Keep him there. There's no person who can replace him. There's no person who should replace him or you should think also. So Thiago, hands down, so there's no slash there. Fabinho, I think whenever he is injured or if he fills in that centre back, maybe Wijnaldum or Keita can start. But other than that, Henderson or Wijnaldum again, or Henderson and Keita again, or Henderson and this guy, Curtis Jones. So midfield, lot of options. A left wing is Mane, right wing is Salah, but that also is up for dispute. Apparently, they're planning to play Costa on either wing, whichever wing they need. But yeah, he's primarily a left winger, so you can play him in place of Mane. And instead of Firmino, as already discussed, we have Minamino, we have Shaqiri, and if there's nobody else left to play, you can also have Divock Origi. So yeah, possible exercise done.
No, did you mention this guy, Jota?
Yeah, Diego Jota.
You told Costa.
Oh my god, did I say Costa? How do I edit this out?
You said Costa.
I'm going to say...
I thought
I'm going to do a voiceover.
Player is there called Costa.
No, I'm going to do a voiceover and say Jota and put it over. I don't know why I said that. Oh my god. No, I've been reading a lot about Atletico Madrid and how Suarez and Costa are going to fit. I think that's playing in my mind now. So yeah, that's done. Diego Jota is good. Okay, I'll do that again. Diego Jota on left or right wing. Apparently he can play on either wing. And yeah, I think that's about it. And yeah, Harvey Elliott, whenever he gets to play, can play instead of anybody in the front three actually. The guy is very good. What else do we have to say? What can we expect from the team? We expect them to win the Premier League again despite the horrible show against Aston Villa. We expect them to do very well in the Champions League and not crash out against crappy teams like Atletico last time. And I don't expect anything in the cup games because he is going to feel like not even a second B team. He's going to feel like an under 21 team or something like that.
He doesn't consider the cup games.
So yeah, that's what we can expect from the team. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's nothing to talk about in the off script because I've gone into detail about every single position. So I think this is by far the most extensive I've talked about any team. And we're already at 50 minutes. So let's cut this. Done. Jitu, anything to add? Oh, you wanted me to talk about Van Dijk? I already talked now.
I think you talked about him. Yeah, his form.
So is there anything else?
I think we pretty much covered everything.
Done. So this is Elijah signing off. You'll never walk alone.
Okay guys, this is Jitu signing out. Do subscribe to our channel and like our videos. Thank you. Bye.